Keith, I love you, and don't forget to call me in the morning, and don't forget to look up. Look up to the Lord.
Bernice was born to the late McDonald Conleaf and Margaret Gomez on January 7, 1933. Born in Port of Spain, Trinidad, she was raised by her grandmother, affectionately known to everyone as Aunt Jane, and her Aunt Arlena. Bernice married the late Hugh Nathaniel Williams on December 26, 1952. Bernice's birth name was Bernadetta Gemma. However, after years of being called Bernice, she legally changed her name to provide a better life for their family.
Bernice Williams is my mother, my friend, my rock, a super grandmother, an amazing cook, a great listener, a funny person with a witty sense of humor.
I'm McDonald Williams, the first son of Bernice Williams, born 1951 in Trinidad, migrated to the U.S. in 1969 with my mom and 4 other siblings.
My name is Luann Williams. I'm number 4 of Bernice's 8 kids. I am this year turned 68 years old.
My name is Keith G. Williams. I am number 7 out of 8 children of Bernice Williams.
I'm Gail Williams. I am the last of the children, so I'm number 8.
It was simple. We went to school. My mom didn't work while we were in Trinidad. We came home for lunch, went back to school, came back home. And like the school break, which you guys call summertime break, it was like 2 months. They would just pack us up and we would go out into the country or to the beach where we spent like 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And all of us were there, and then we came back home.
Trinidad was a lot of fun. It molded me to be the person that I am today. And the reason I say this is when I came into this country, I was 17 years old, going on 18. And a lot of the values that mommy instilled in me are still prevalent in my life. I pass it on to my kids.
Well, we knew we were leaving because when my dad first came here, he came with Jennifer. And then when they came back, you know, we kind of figured out we're going to be all leaving soon, but we weren't leaving all together. He left with Jennifer and Pearlie when he officially left Trinidad. And my mom, when she left, it was myself, Mac, Carlton, Tony. I don't think Tony was supposed to come when we came, but something had happened. I don't remember what it was. And they immediately packed him up to send with us. So Glenn was left back and Keith was left back, and they stayed with Miss Millicent, which was Glenn's godmother and a friend of Papa's. So they stayed back because your dad, when he did come to the States, he was a year and a half. We actually stayed with its Tanty Cleo, which is Papa's older sister. And they lived in Harlem on 128th Street between Lenox and Fifth Avenue. They had a house there at the time, and we stayed with them. It was not comfortable because when we lived in Trinidad, we lived in a house, and it was crammed also, but it was different because that was ours. So when we came here, we were living in someone's house, and we dealt with it until we actually moved.
Probably by the time I got to college, I became more curious about what it meant to sort of grow up in Trinidad and be part of Trinidad. It is the case that my mother took me there when I was 5. That was the only time I've actually been to Trinidad. My memories of it were not great. Like I remembered like cousins putting me in a chicken coop and leaving me on the top of a roof. And I would tell people like I would never go back there. And people often said like, oh, you don't remember because you were only 5. And then my mom confirmed like, yes, those are the things that happened to her. So I did, you know, it's like I know I don't, she understood why I wouldn't want to go back. But even though I had never been to Trinidad, I think between the number of times that my mom would go to Trinidad, by the time I was 16, she used to go every couple of weeks, and then when she fully retired, which was by the time I got to college, she used to go for months on end. And so she definitely kept the sort of like the Trinidadian experience local and in the home, from her dishes to maintaining her accent to just talking about like her experience there.
My mother got her degree in nursing, and she worked at on Ward's Island at Manhattan Psychiatric Center until she retired.
In Trinidad, well, you know where everything was, and you went to school, you know where your friends were. Most of your friends lived in your same neighborhood. In New York, you basically started over, and you had to readjust. No. Her relatives were her immediate family and her kids.
She overcame no longer being a housewife. She became a working class woman, becoming a single mom after the divorce, becoming a grandmother, becoming a strong support staff to her children and her family and her friends.
I lived in Florida for the last part of her life, but when I used to live in New York, I was always like by her side, and she was supposed to be moving to Florida. Definitely one of the things on her wish list was, or bucket list rather, was to move down here. We'd even like looked at houses and stuff, or like senior citizen facilities that she would possibly move to. So that was exciting. And then she got really sick, and it was definitely scary.
Oh, gosh.
It was hard. It was hard. She was always going in and out the hospital. I remember it was May 25th, 2017. We drove her to the hospital. We and my sister Luann drove her to the hospital. And she never came back home. But through her time at the hospital, I made sure her grandkids went to visit her on my weekends. And I remember that that night in July, it was like July 2nd, 2017, we had a conference call, and I fell asleep, and something woke me up that night, and I got on a conference call, and the conference call was dealing with, do we make that decision of another operation or just let her rest?
That was hard for me. Her being in the hospital that long period of time. I don't think you guys know that her last day, it was the day before her last day, we basically had to make a decision that if she had a surgery, she might not have come through that surgery. And if she did come through the surgery, she would be in a nursing home for the rest of her life. So we all, 8 of us, had to make a decision to terminate her life.
The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. He shall feed me in green pasture.
Everything that I know that I did, and everything that I know that my siblings were doing, or the majority of my siblings were doing, was about sort of making sure that she was okay.
She was, because she actually, I didn't have to call each person, and I could just go to her and say, hey, how's Kiara doing? Hey, how's Carlton doing? Hey, how's Tony doing? She knew all the answers. And she kept everything together.
Hey, I really appreciate my moms for being an understanding woman, a fair person, sense of humor, and no filter. Hey, mommy, I miss you. Love you.